Hey everybody, welcome back to the Collision Hub World's Fair and Exposition.
Here we are.
What? We are
boom.
We are driving our way through the week here again. Hey, one thing we forgot, let's give a shout out quick to all of our veterans out there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your service, much appreciated for that. And also want to give a quick update on the Collision Repair Education Foundation fundraiser, our telethon that we've got going on. Keep that money coming in. We're getting closer to some of our initial goals. We'll see if we can get a drum roll maybe later.
Do we have any t-shirts left?
Yeah, well, so just a little update on the giveaway. So we announced, kind of the hashtag campaign, Chubb World Fair 2020. So if you take a selfie while you're watching the show, post it up, or if you make comments in any of the live show, the Chubb World Fair 2020, we have some giveaways. So yesterday we gave away 5 subscriptions to the ADAS. Right? Today we gave away 5 Collision Hub packs, which are T-shirts, the Collision Hub socks, the Collision Hub hats, those kind of things. Those are out and going. And then we have more coming. We're going to have some of those vintage and limited edition Chubb shirts that are coming from Cref. We have some subscriptions to AllData. We have some tooling and equipment. Hutchins, the DA company, has donated a bunch of DAs, so we're going to be giving away DAs, some file belt tools and stuff from the Norton team. So definitely keep hashtagging while you're watching every episode. You never know what you're going to win.
Hey, Larry, put me in a selfie with you, and then we can.
We'll leave Kristen out of it. And
we can actually see if we can
tag it and see if we get a gift.
Can win.
And we're talking about the good DAs, not the kind that you're used to dealing with.
Right, not
not those guys. So just don't get nervous. It's the tool.
Not those kind of DAs. Yeah.
Cool.
Larry's like, I get my own DA.
The sanding DA, not the one that's going to give me my indictment. I say.
Exactly.
Everyone's a comedian.
His own pet DA.
So we're going to talk about steering column inspections, and you can see we've got some steering columns here because it's important, and we've had some
Well, that's also
columns
the
that
topic
require
we're talking
replacement.
about.
It's
a good idea to have steering. We don't have glass sitting here because it's not a glass.
I should have not said anything with the DA.
I'm still wondering why you invited him to be on the show.
Do you want us to send him on assignment outside?
Listen, I was perfectly willing to stay outside of my camper.
Can our roaming reporter play in the street?
That's right. So we've been doing a lot of steering column stuff for a while now. So I want to give you a real kind of a quick recap of kind of how we got to where we are today. This started late last year. We started getting some inquiries about some inaccurate measurements. Right. And the more we chased this down, the more issues that we found and the more problems that we found. And when the world shut down in March and April and we had our spring webinars, we did a presentation on steering columns. Very well received, a lot of good feedback on it, and we wanted to keep that momentum going. I'm on the Emerging Technologies Committee for Collision Industry Conference, so at their June meeting, I guess so, June-July meeting. We talked about steering column inspections to CIC. And then we took our Technician 20 group, our Collision Hub Technician 20 group, which we'd love to have you join. It's a monthly meeting that we have. We talk about things like steering columns, best practice development. We have OEM presentations. We had Subaru got Subaru coming in December. We had some Nissan follow-up last week. We had Rivian came in. They talked about developing a body repair manual, gave some input from the technicians. So a lot of good things happening in there. But one of those things that we did was we developed some best practices around steering column inspections. Not necessarily how to inspect them, but what we really need from the OEMs to help us better do our job. And we're going to talk about that as we go through here. And then earlier today, I followed back up with CIC on where we were at, gave them an update on our C20 group best practices. And we'll keep moving that forward as well. We have a little task force. We're going to start to gather information from you and everybody across the country so we can start to compile some data in hopes that we can encourage the vehicle makers to adopt some of these best practices. So the more data that we have and we can put on their desk, the better that works out. Scott talked about that the other day. If we have 1 or 2 Hyundai inquiries on Hyundai vehicles, nothing gets done. He presented, several hundred examples, and that helps get the ball moving. So we will have a call to action for you to get us some input from that. So,
and I do want to say something real quick. So you just said how this all started, and you kind of wound the clock back a year or so.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a conversation that was in the ICAR classes in the late '90s. Subarus. The last one I can find, the earliest one I can find is 2006. So this actually isn't new as a conversation on what we should have been doing for the last 20 plus years. What's new is the emphasis we've been putting on it.
Yes.
Well, So
okay.
I mean, me formulate my response.
We didn't
Okay.
we didn't pre-record
Yeah,
set this
that's
up.
the thing about live, right? And so here's the interesting thing. Steering column inspections have been in the OE procedures. It's been part of training, 90s with iCard, 2000s with the OEs on what we should have been pulling and measuring. Okay,
Kinda like scanning.
it's only within the last year that we had technicians raising their hand and going, hey, the measurements are wrong. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
That we should have been pulling these all along. We should have been doing all this all along, and now we've just now kind of raised our head over the last year and said, "Hey, we have data issues," which then facilitated what we had to do. And I think to me that's the takeaway is that, wait, what? We're just now discovering we have a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
20 years later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that and maybe why we're getting that, which is a positive
It's
trend,
positive. Yeah.
but there might be some drawbacks.
Yep.
We'll touch on that in a moment. So why is this important? Well, first and last, it is customer safety. Again, we recognize that there's collision energy management built into steering columns. They are part of the safety system. Obviously, if you're driving and you have steering issues, that could be a problem. So we want to make sure that the steering is functioning properly. So our customer safety is paramount and first and foremost on this. The next thing is it really adds potentially additional cost to the entire chain on this. Not only from, again, if I'm replacing a column on a vehicle that, and we'll talk about this, and maybe we don't need to because it wasn't as big of a severe collision that caused any damage. If we're pulling columns that maybe the vehicle's been involved in a rear impact collision, but we need to pull a column and inspect it, that may not make sense. And then with these inaccurate numbers that we're getting
from the specs,
we're adding to the cost at the dealership, at the parts distribution center. So we're adding a ton of cost to the overall issue around this, and that's not good.
Right.
And availability. I mean, I can imagine that columns aren't something that the OEs plan on having a lot of them. and
Well, I don't
having
think
them-
they have them right next to the oil filters and the brakes, you know, for
Right.
normal maintenance and stuff.
Yeah, and I think if we looked at accidents and then we looked at what would be required, you know, so the accident rate by brand and then what the required inspections and stuff are, I think we would have, if everyone was doing this correctly, we would have depleted the resources and then we would have a supply-demand issue as well. So there's a lot of things around these.
It's difficult enough to get parts right now with
Right.
everything going on, right?
Right.
The other thing it does is really, I think we're adding some additional repair and insure attention. Not like we need any more of that, but again, if we're getting into this conversation on, well, why are we inspecting this column or replacing this column? It doesn't need it. That doesn't help. It's going to cause unnecessary delays. So again, if we have parts issues, that's going to cause some delays on it. Customer confidence. If they think that we can't figure this out, what's that going to do to their belief in our ability to weld their vehicle properly or to match their color? And it's not a good look for us, I don't think. And then ignoring OEM procedures because of the inaccurate information is going to be a problem. We got our wasp back here. So apparently it's
This is our Mike Pence moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, there was flies earlier, so.
Yeah.
Flies
The
earlier
other
was driving up the
morning.
wall. Now we got a wasp in here.
Yeah.
It's Arkansas.
So if we go back to our OEM procedures conversation that we're just having about why we're starting to hear some of these things, and I pulled up Mike Anderson's survey from 2015 to 2018. So either collision repair facilities that are answering that they use OEM information either always or most of the time. Back in 2015, we're around 42%. We're up to 54% now, so we got a little ways to go to get to 100 yet, but nonetheless we're starting to see
But it's trending in the right direction.
In the right direction.
Yeah.
But if we have published inaccuracies, much like our consumer confidence concerns, if you keep reading things from a vehicle manufacturer that's wrong, you're going to lose your confidence in their procedures as well, and you're going to be less apt to use them. And again, now we're going to head back the wrong way, and we don't want that to happen.
Well, for me, it would be it's a loophole in court, right? It's a loophole in negotiation when I can say, well, if I'm on the other side of the bill payer, going, well, I don't have to pay for any of these because look, that's not even right.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yep. So what are kind of a recap of the main issues, and these are kind of the three things that have kind of bubbled to the surface over the past several months. The first one is when to inspect, and we talked about required inspections the other day, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but when do I have to do this? Is it every collision? Is it only frontal collisions? Is it when the airbag deploys, when it doesn't deploy? I mean, there's all kinds of different things around when do I do that. Now, a lot of the OEMs have published inspection guidelines on what to look for, how to do it, but how do I get to that point? How do I know that I should even use that criteria and start making these measurements? We need guidance from the OEs, and Subaru's one that we're going to talk about here momentarily.
From scratching the bumper to having to replace a frame rail, where is that spot we start? Yeah.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about some unreasonable requirements. I didn't know what else to call it, but I think that some of them may be unreasonable, so we're going to use that verbiage for now until we come up with something different, and we're going to talk about a charger issue that ran into a small collision, but warranted a column replacement because that's what Fiat Chrysler says on it.
How heavy was the raccoon?
You gave it away already.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Jeez.
It was a normal sized raccoon. I don't know if it was an Arkansas
That's it, we gotta start
raccoon
over.
versus a Wisconsin raccoon. Yeah.
Cut, let's go over.
Cut. Start from the beginning. Hi, welcome to Collision Hub. This is our.
Okay, I'll just be quiet over here in my own world.
The
Who
jury
invited the
needs to
guy?
disregard what Mark just said.
Who invited the guy from Portland?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
Oh, that's right. That's me.
And then the other issue we've been seeing is some what we believe to be published inaccuracies around some GM vehicles and Nissan vehicles, and we've reached out to both of them trying to get a response for that. So, the C20 group, the Technician 20 group, we got together and we talked about these three issues and we adopted some, we adopted some best practices. We developed some kind of draft best practices that we would like the OEMs to consider to help us resolve the steering column issue. And the first one is, because based on our three bullet points we talked to, was really clearly defining when inspections are required. Again, whether it's an airbag deployment, whether it's a frontal collision. And we really liked the Subaru verbiage. Now this is their pre-scan document. They've defined a collision as damage that exceeds minor outer body panel cosmetic distortion.
And this is like a year old, maybe 8 months old. I mean, this is like they revised it to this.
Yes.
Because it was before it was any collision.
A collision.
Basically, if bird poop
Yeah.
landed on the
Well, it
windshield,
was-
you had to, pull a column to measure it and stuff.
I don't think bird poop was in the manual. I'm just saying.
But that raccoon poop maybe.
Raccoon.
Raccoon poop. There we go.
Raccoon poop.
There we go. I'm just going to stay away from
Good
that.
soup, raccoon
Yeah,
soup.
yeah,
That's
yeah. Squirrel gravy.
it's dinner later.
Yeah.
So we thought,
Cooking
as
for
a
y'all.
group, that perhaps, the OEs could look at some verbiage around that. We saw a little bit of insight from General Motors at a meeting that they're working on some potential levels of damage. But again, we just need some better definition around when to inspect steering columns. If they want it done all the time, okay, so be it. But at least let us know that it's going to be all the time and understand those ramifications, and then understand that we need accurate
It
information.
needs to be clear.
Yeah, well, fences, they all go saying, fences make good neighbors. Clearly defined procedures reduce friction and interpretation, so that...
Yeah, if you get something that says, and you need to inspect this in all but minor, then we have to define minor
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, your version of minor, mine.
Exactly.
Larry, it's a scratch.
So that was the first issue, is again when to do this. And again, we talked about the required inspections the other day, and we're going to kind of close out today with, this doesn't necessarily just apply to steering columns, like some better definition around when these required inspections take place, again, some better definition around that potentially. So here is a Dodge Charger. Want to guess what this Dodge Charger hit?
A pole.
Now you play along.
Hey, welcome to Collision Hub. This is our second one of the third day. Then we're going to start this again from the top.
Take three.
Take three.
I just can't seem to get it right.
So this vehicle had some bumper damage on it. It's got a little bit of headlamp damage on it. I don't know, if the fenders even got anything on it.
It was parked when it got hit, right?
The raccoon ran
okay.
into it.
Angry raccoon.
Raccoon was pissed.
But because Fiat Chrysler says if a vehicle is involved in a front-end collision or the airbag is deployed or both, the steering column must be replaced.
Yeah.
So Kyle in St. Louis area, this is a friend of his car, hit that raccoon, they put a column in this thing.
Yeah.
Now, I might think that's unreasonable. Maybe Fiat Chrysler's got a reason. Well, hey, you know what? We think it needs to be replaced regardless. Again, that's fine. If that's, but we need some more emphasis on that. We really need to know what it is. So, so if we could have some better clarification around when these are required and what a collision is.
Yeah.
You know, some vehicle manufacturers say if the airbag's deployed, that's when we're going to look at it.
Really nice go, no go.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Period.
The Subaru verbiage, again, you know, what they've kind of defined what a collision is, that would be very beneficial for us to have.
Yep.
Or developing some inspection criteria, and again, General Motors is kind of looking at some varying levels of damage.
Yeah.
I don't know what their timeline is, Kristen, for releasing that, if we got any insight into that yet.
I know
but
that they're working really hard on that. One segue here that I kind of want to make is I hear this all the time, and you, I'm sure, you know, you do too, that you have to use common sense. And if you
Common sense so common, how come nobody has it?
right, well, there is no legal definition of common sense,
No.
and so
No.
when you say that, and I've seen a lot of shops try to use that in defense, right? Well, I just used common sense. Well, so here's what we're looking at. These steering columns do much more than turn the wheels, right? So they have some collapsibility to them, some cushioning, some trampolining that, you know, prevent people from all those chest and impact injuries and
Yep.
stuff we had to have. So they're a safety component, and we
Yep.
can all agree to that. Now, if I go into court and try to say that I used common sense, that I thought that hitting that raccoon didn't make sense, and so I applied common sense in my, is it 30 years the
30
right?
years, yeah.
My 30 years
Yeah, 30 years.
experience of being a collision repair technician or a shop manager, or I used to be an adjuster, whatever 30 years I want to go on, and I used common sense to say that I shouldn't replace this part, then now I'm exposed. Because can we all think of a time when maybe there's been airbag problems? Like maybe Takata, like that's a good
Yep.
resource, right? Or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I know that I have a device that has recalls and is prone, if that car's been in a collision and now it has a subsequent collision and comes back, and now let's say they're going to call, you know, Larry's engineering firm because a plaintiff has been injured, and they're thinking, oh, I got an airbag claim,
Yep.
right? And Larry goes out and looks at it on behalf of the OE, and you find out that it's been in a collision before. What are you going to go back and report to the OE? That we possibly have an out.
You have an out. You know, you got to realize the column has what, maybe 2, sometimes 3 universal joints, or, you know, articulated joints. They have at least 3 or 4 areas that they have ball bearings. Okay, and the ball bearings are not huge and big; they're small. Something can shift. And the column, if you grab any part of this column, there's really nothing that moves or has a lot of deflection that can, you know, move around. So in a collision, when it does get hit, that energy can transfer through and can actually shift things around.
And it's not always going straight in.
Right.
Right.
You know, an
Angles.
object in motion keeps it motionless met with an outside force. Remember, because the column's attached, it's not one solid bar or tube that runs from the horn pad all the way down to the, you know, the steering box itself, or in this case, the rack and pinion, like that, you know, 59 Impala that time,
Right.
where it literally went through the guy's face. You have different antiquated or articulated areas that it's movable parts. Stuff can shift, stuff can break. And I think that's the more important thing. Now, if something slightly bends or breaks and the column's still working, you know, as this broken piece breaks, well, fractured piece fractures more and moves around, it could lock up the steering column. This is why also, you know, so many times with the rack, they want you to change racks a lot. If a collision causes one of the suspension components, such as the tie rod inner router,
yep.
moves, because you could chip a tooth and not find out for 5 miles or 300 miles, and all of a sudden you go to turn and the column's locked because the steering gear is locked. So, you know, you got movable stuff in there. We have to think differently than the overall cost, and a lot of people don't think that way.
There's a lot in play here. And if there was one item in the car that has possibly got the, well, I don't want to say possibly, but has the potential to come back and haunt me more than anything, it's this one. It's not the quarter panel that I welded on, maybe half correct and half not, because this is the one that makes everybody's eyes light up. So when we say use common sense, I don't have that luxury. I wish I did.
Yeah.
And I have to try to explain that to insurers. I would love to.
Sure.
I would love to be able to apply my knowledge and use common sense in a repair. But if I have to go step in a courtroom and somebody that was on the other end of this bag is hurt, then a jury's going to tell me common sense should have been to do what the OE told me
Exactly.
to do because the OE had a reason. So here is where, when we talk about these unreasonable requirements, we all in this industry think we're smarter than the OE. Because we really fix cars, they don't. They're just interested in selling parts. They're worried about being sued, so they make all these crazy requirements that we don't even really have to follow. I'm quoting what I've heard from the service managers of dealerships,
Yeah, right.
So you just need to use your common sense, Kristen. And I just want to make sure we really understand that's not available.
Can I tell you how
here.
many times my engineering firm I work with, Lang Technical Services, gets called by an insurance company to go look at a car at a dealership because the common sense guy didn't realize either one, he didn't put the oil plug back in the motor, or he put the oil plug back in, went to lunch, came back, started the motor up, drove it outside,
With no oil.
gave it to the customer with no oil, and the customer gets 10 miles away, the motor blows because there's no oil in the car because he used common sense, or the Ron White joke of, I went to Sears and had the guy that was trained on how to torque wheels on and tighten wheels. My wheel went flying off. You had one job. You had to torque wheels. What happened? You failed torquing school or something? It's one of
these things you want to cover because I think we all agree that some of this is it just seems over. We agree. But I don't have the option of saying no.
You're better off having a bill that stipulates that you put a column in when it was required, because if we had an investigation on this and someone got killed in a subsequent collision event and it was able to trace it back to the last repair professional, could have been involved in 5 other collisions in between, but highly unlikely. Usually you can figure stuff out. And the column, we said a column, was put in, and the shop gets called in, and they have a bill. Yeah, we put the column. Matter of fact, we didn't even put the column in. We bought the column, put the box in the back of the car. We sent it over to the dealer. Told them, do the wheel. Let me put the column in first, because I can't be bothered with it. My guys aren't good enough to do it. And the dealer gave me a bill for it. At least you have some sort of proof I did change the column. Because the anticipation is, well, you don't measure the column when it comes in. It's brand new. Why should I measure it?
No.
It's like you don't do resistance tests, and we'll get to that after, so I'm going to bring it up now. But you get to resistance tests. You don't do resistance tests on a brand new airbag. You assume out of the box it's brand new. I'm going to plug it in. As long as the light goes off, I'm good to go, and I do my scans.
Yep.
You're not going to do a resistance test or a voltage drop test because I did that to diagnose that there was an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And I did a scan to tell me it was wrong. Now the scan goes clear, the light flashes on a few times, goes off. Hey, we're good to go.
Yep.
At least I have a bill that says I put an airbag in or I put a steering column in.
Yep.
Error on the side of safety versus not. And if it totals out the car, it's not my problem either.
Well, and all this can run in the background, because I've heard from shops, they say, well, how would they know? How would they know that it's ever been in a wreck? It's not on Carfax. They're not sure what the insurance car. Well, did you order parts with a VIN, therefore, from the dealer, and now you've got a headlight, a bumper cover, and a grille, so it's been in a collision, and all of a sudden, there's no steering column that attaches to that VIN that was replaced. We don't even have to look at the car now.
Right.
This is a paper audit.
Yeah.
We're done.
Did you
already.
follow the proper
Right.
procedures?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to cover I hear the common sense thing all the time.
And that came up at CIC.
Yeah.
And I mean, Clint put a little bit more eloquently than perhaps we can. But and again, it's kind of you listen to him, you go like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
I do.
But at the same point, it says
Right.
replace
And
it.
I wear I put that insurance hat on a lot, and I agree. I don't want to pay for this, and I don't want to run up costs, and I don't want to do a whole lot of things that affect premium, because once I start paying more on claims, I have to go back and adjust premium. And in today's market, in trying to stay competitive, it's hard to keep a customer these days in the insurance industry. So I don't want to do it either. But to just tell me to use common
And it
sense.
goes back to that increased cost again. Now we got
Right.
that.
Well, and think about it. Do you think a shop wants to replace a steering column or put a fender on a car?
I don't even want to pull it.
Exactly.
I mean, here's the
Yeah.
thing. As soon as
Exactly.
that's the way I talk about blending paint.
Yeah.
Every panel I blend, I have to warranty. So
Yeah.
there's just certain things I don't want to touch
Right.
because I don't want to
I don't
own
have
it.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where I don't want to pull a column.
not a
There's
moneymaker.
I'm not sitting in the shop today going, how many columns can I pull?
Yeah.
Right? It's just, but it is what it is.
Yep. Cool. All right. So now if we tie, so I just want to kind of tie this back to what we the other day. We did a presentation on required inspections following a collision.
Yeah.
So certainly encourage you
I'm
to
going to
go.
vote yes on that.
Is this a bigger raccoon? Like a fatter raccoon?
It was a well-fed raccoon.
Well-fed raccoon.
But yeah,
This is
we've
a
got
New York raccoon.
New York raccoon,
It's
okay.
actually a Wisconsin raccoon. This is
Oh,
a
Wisconsin
big
raccoon.
Wisconsin raccoon here. So again, no airbags deployed in this Jeep, but again, once again, that Fiat Chrysler. So we showed this picture the other day, but we didn't cover this part of it. But again, same thing. Replace a column on this particular vehicle. which Bob did. But again, go back and look at that required inspections following a collision presentation if you haven't had a chance to do it yet. Tie these two together. So they kind of go hand in hand, but we didn't have enough time to cover both in
We
one
had
episode.
a Jeep almost similar to that one. It was gray though, and they, somebody with a trailer hitch backed up into it. It's on videotape, security videotape. He backs up to it, punctures, damages the bumper reinforcement, the top of it, scrapes over the top of it, breaks the grill, the bumper cover, the radiator, the condenser, and then cracks the fan.
And you're saying parked and unoccupied?
Parked and unoccupied, and the truck backs up into it. Right. He's got this big, huge trailer hitch because he must be towing something big or something. He's got a long hitch on it, so it goes right through it. And I guess he didn't hear his Parktronics going off because it was a newer 350, pickup truck. Yeah. And we get the truck in, and the shop at the time was asking me about it, and I said, no, you got to change the column. I know it sounds ridiculous, it was parked and unoccupied, but you got to change the column. They say any accident, any frontal collision.
Yeah.
It's a frontal collision. Well, the car wasn't moving. Hey, listen, you give me a letter to the insurance company. I said, you give me a letter that stipulates you're covering the shop, the technician, the owner, everybody against, damages. If something goes wrong later on down the road, you're going to give them some sort of rider policy that you're going to pay the premiums for. We will change the column. Because I kind of agree with you in a way. But guess what? The books, there's a book. I don't wreck them. I don't destroy them. I don't even put gas in them. I don't sell them. I got a book. The book tells me how to fix it. The book says, step 3, do this. I'm doing this. That's just the way it is, unfortunately.
What did the letter say when they wrote it?
They didn't write the letter.
Oh, got it.
They just paid for the column.
It said, Dear Larry.
Yeah.
Dear Larry. Dear Larry.
Dear Larry.
Here's your column.
Can we start a new series called Dear Larry?
They they basically wrote Dear Larry, then 2 words, and it rhymes with duck and you. They paid for the column.
All right, so we're gonna talk about publish inaccuracies, and this is kind of this is where this is a huge concern again for me and
this
for
is where the
us.
heartburn comes in.
This is where so again you mentioned we've been inspecting columns since the 90s and 2000s.
We're supposed to have been.
They're supposed to have been, and now we get this inquiry late last year through the Collision Hub Pick Attack service that we offer.
And thank God for technology.
Yeah.
Some of the groups and this kind of technology, because 20 years ago, somebody might find it, they don't know who to tell. Call the dealer, they don't care.
Well, they also don't know what to do. So,
right,
that was one of the
exactly.
things that the reason Pick Attack launched was that you have a technician in a stall who's now confused, and the vehicle's got to deliver, and sometimes we were making bad decisions without getting clarification, and now you just pick up that phone and text us. Sometimes you regret texting us.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, but you can pick up the phone and text us, or text somebody that phone a friend and get an answer. And
Yeah, so we got this inquiry from Kyle. So thanks, Kyle, for starting all of this. Thanks a lot, putting us to work.
So
on
basically, this particular
This show's
OEM
for
is going to
you.
put a hit out on Kyle.
He's got the rec.
a couple of hits already.
Yeah, he's got the pick attack. Kyle's in a lot of trouble.
So Kyle started.
Thank God he's been working out and
and
running. Now he can run.
And I can tell you he's probably watching too. Kyle,
Why isn't he working at his job? Hang on, let me call Jack.
He'd rather watch
call Jack
Collision.
Hunter. Hey, Jack, listen, Kyle's watching us right now. Yeah, use the kit. Yeah.
Don't say that out there. That just there's connotations there I don't want to think about. Okay.
All right,
Sorry without his shirt on.
So Kyle sent us this inquiry. Says, hey, we've got this column. We think it's short, right? And I said, well, you're at 273. What's the spec? And Kyle said it's 286. Well.
Short.
That's short, right?
pretty-
I mean, I'm no.
Hey,
I'm
even
not,
I can do that.
Wait, we got to do math.
No-go, right?
Wait, we got to read and do math.
I'm
Oh,
not great at
God.
math, but I think
Thank God there's
that-
no science.
That is short. So Kyle ordered a column. So Kyle got the column, and guess what? The new column measured 278. That spec was what? 286. Again, I think 286. This says right here, replace the steering column assembly if measured dimension is less than 286.
Right. It's collapsed.
So that tells me this column is 8 millimeters short.
Yep.
So I need to replace this column now. But I just bought this column.
Right.
This can't be true, right?
What do I do?
What
Was
now
it
what?
damaged in shipping? Do
That
I
could
order
be,
another
right?
one? Do I send this back? Do I have a restocking
Did someone
fee?
swap it out?
Yeah.
And say,
Right.
oh, I didn't need the column, and send it back and try to rob the dealership or something.
Yeah.
What a bad thing, by swapping out the column.
So now I'm confused.
Yep.
Now we're confused, right? So here's another area where we need some OEM guidance. All right. So if we measure a steering column from a collision damaged vehicle and we determine it's short, we order a replacement column. What should we do if that one shows up short. Because I think we always talk about matching parts and making sure we got, we want to make sure that we're putting the proper part back in there.
And kudos to him for actually
what do I
measuring
do?
the new one.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's again,
Because why would you do it? You would assume it's good.
you assume it's good.
Yeah.
So what do? Do I just automatically put that replacement column in, even though now I know that it's 8 millimeters short? Do I return that column and get a new one?
Well, order another column.
We had to order another column.
Try that first. And
have
if it
to,
comes
yeah.
in again
Yep.
short, now you have a quandary, which, look, you ordered 2 columns, they both came in short, maybe the measurement's wrong, maybe a copy and paste issue or
that's
something.
wrong, yeah.
But take a look at this. We go back to that same thing, an accident occurs. The engineering office gets called, we get called in, there was a death, an injury, whatever. We go, we figure everything out. We find out the car was in a previous collision event.
Mm-hmm.
We find there's something wrong with the steering rack or steering system. We measure the column short.
Yep.
Shop didn't change the list. And well, the shop has a bill that says, I bought one, it was
And
short.
that becomes the quandary.
I bought another one. That becomes an issue now.
So
Now
if I
who's to blame?
if I order in the second column and I measure it and it's not up to spec either, now the shop makes a decision. Do you install the new column that you ordered, or do you reinstall the original part, return both columns, and then is there restocking fees? At some point,
Right.
does the dealership say, dude, we're not ordering you any more parts? What does that do to the dealership? It's not like they need a bunch of steering columns laying around.
Right.
So do they have to send it back to warehouse, or how does that? So it becomes this mess. Do I call the insurance company and go, hey, never mind, the other column measured the same? So for a lot of the shops when this happens, we're like, well, go ahead and install the new column you bought, just so that for what your point is,
I
Larry.
have a bill. I did my best due diligence. I'm assuming I ordered 3 columns. All 3 columns were right, or I've done this on 7 different cars already. Listen, I guess the procedure's off. I'm just replacing with a new bill. I have a bill that says I replaced it. I did my due diligence.
Right.
And so there was another situation for a Nissan vehicle. I believe it was a Nissan Leaf, I think, from Total Auto Body in Wisconsin. Right rear quarter panel. I may have my numbers of my vehicles maybe a little bit mixed. I may be mixing some stories here, but I'm pretty sure right rear quarter panel on this Leaf. Pull the column per the requirements, measure it. I think Bob ordered 3 or 4 columns, all measured the same. So now what do I do? So now I've got 4 columns now that have measured out the same length.
And a dealer will never sell them apart again.
I think we did that too with the Subaru. I think
Maybe it was a Subaru then.
Yeah, we had a couple, but we had those issues, and that's what he kept trying to do. And then at some point, we've taken time. These aren't necessarily parts that are always in stock. Sometimes there's a couple days wait to get columns in. The customer's been waiting, and then it turns out it was right all along.
Right. So we need some guidance from the vehicle manufacturers, and I'm pleading with you, please. give us some direction on this, right? If we run into this scenario, or how can we bring that to you? And so Chris and I had some conversations, and Kristen sent an email off to General Motors saying, hey, and so Kyle started this, and they had the Bob, and then we started getting them like every other week we started getting these steering column issues, and a lot of them were around General Motors pickup trucks, whether it's 1500, 2500 series, both models we started running into these issues.
Yeah, the second we posted on Facebook and people realized it was an issue, I guess they started checking that and going, oh, wait a second, I got one too. Now it became like an epidemic in a way.
Me too.
So,
Me too.
So we
wrong
reached out.
campaign.
Yeah.
We reached out to GM asking for some guidance on it, and we also we made an offer to them, Chris. So what did you offer to do for them?
So when it wasn't just us, and Mike Anderson and I were having some conversations about it, and we reached out to several of the manufacturers. GM was also one of them, and said we're happy to help remeasure. We'll go to the warehouses. We'll bring our equipment, our measuring tools. We'll help facilitate to get to the bottom of it. No charge, whatever we need to do, but we need an answer on what the proper spec should be.
Yep. And if we'll go measure them.
Yeah.
And we think what's happening is, during the pre-production process, we're getting that 286 was the spec on that, and then some point after this gets published or written or drafted or whatever, because you got multiple departments, right? It's not like one person's doing all this, right? So we've got publication department, you get the service engineering part, you get the parts group, you got there's a whole bunch of people involved in it, but suppliers, maybe an engineer, who knows exactly what happened, but nonetheless,
maybe
we're not getting 286.
It could be as stupid as they changed the position of where you're measuring from.
Yeah.
On one column versus another. An engineer accidentally, or somebody, secretary, I guess, copied the wrong number down.
Secretary?
I said an engineer first.
Oh.
You know, they could have inverted. Listen, I've been through classes on engineering disasters.
Secretary's
I
name
mean,
is
one
Joe.
big disaster came down that somebody put the decimal point in the wrong spot, and it changed the thickness of something, and an O-ring, and it just caused a nightmare. But the fact is that, look, I can't fathom that after 8 months, 10 months, 11 months, somebody can't walk over to the engineering room, to the engineering department, that there's 30 guys, maybe they're building a column. One guy builds a screw, one guy builds this stupid spring, and go to them, hey guys, listen, can you just take a look at this for 5 minutes? Yeah. Did we copy something wrong? Did we write something wrong?
But it needs to
fix this.
Well, there's a couple things. One, different departments, right? Two, the United States is really probably the only country out there that is litigious as we are, where we worry the way we do. Why did it take Hyundai so long to come to the States with repair procedures? So our legal is different, which makes, when the OE is located out of the country, having them realize that it's a problem is a difficult conversation for the collision people. So I haven't had a conversation with anyone at any OE's collision department that didn't agree, oh yeah, we need to work on that.
Yep.
But they have to work on it across sometimes oceans and across departments, so that becomes an issue. The second thing is, let's just be honest. I'd say 98% of the shops aren't doing this.
Right.
So if I go in on anywhere right now and ask you when's the last time you ordered a steering column, most shops look at me like, what?
For what? Why would
Right?
I need one?
So shops aren't doing it, which means they're not finding the shortness, they're not reporting it, and we don't have that voice. So like you said, if I have 2 people having a problem, not going to get anywhere. When 100 people start having a problem, then it allows, the OE on the collision side to walk across the aisle and go, hey, I have 100 and something complaints. It's showing up in collision repair magazines. We got to do something.
Yep.
And that's really what this is about, is going, hey, we got a problem.
And it's not, we didn't include in the presentation today, but another issue that we ran into, close your ears real quick, Larry, if you want my earmuffs, is we started seeing some steering columns being sold on recycled steering columns that have airbags deployed.
Right.
They say the bag's been deployed, but I have a column for sale. We'll tackle that next time, but that's another.
That's not
huge
this
issue.
show.
Right.
Well, you know what's funny?
Well, here's the thing. What does this column list for?
I don't
A
know.
few $100, $300-400.
Yeah, and then how much labor?
$500
Generally,
Yeah. 2.5.
hours
Whatever.
or whatever.
You
So
know,
we're
yeah.
talking maybe, $500 probably is a good. Could we say that's a realistic price?
Probably someplace between 500 to 700.
Okay.
In that area.
Right in there.
Yep.
In a lot of situations, that's a severity increase of 150%, 200%. That's a huge jump on the chain, and so that's a big cost.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
You know what's baffling, like you say, with the parts, is most of the European vehicles don't require really inspections. It's if the airbag goes off, you change the color. I mean, how many times I hear from the inspectors that go for that? I know, like you do the JLRs. I'm sure they look at it and they go, "Well, you replaced 40 airbags, driver's airbags.
How many
Where are all the columns?"
Yeah, exactly.
Because it says if the airbag goes off, you got to replace the column. Oh, the column was fine. Common sense. Oh, the column was fine. It turned left and right. Why change it?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's not what it says.
That's not what it says. It says if the airbag does deploy, you change it.
Doug Craig said that on a show here a couple of years ago, and he was thinking about his old, his days at FCA.
Yeah, when it was a Chrysler.
He was like, it didn't take much to look at how many driver's airbags we had sold versus columns, and that should be 1-to-1, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the fact that
Or you could even argue there should be more columns than airbags because there may be other
correct.
things.
It's
Yeah,
almost like
but-
arguable if they sell you the driver's airbag on one of those cars that require it. They should just send you a column too,
You got to buy the airbag
and the column.
column combo.
Yeah, and the steering wheel. Most of the time, they want the steering wheel also.
I'm
So here's
still-
all three. Here's the whole setup. It's all together already, wrapped in plastic.
But that cost the way it is, I understand why. As an insurer, I would be looking for an alternative, but a used column is about as functional as a used airbag.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
just let that
Well,
go.
chances are it's been in a wreck.
Why not buy used tires then?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Why can't we get
Maybe.
used
I did want to
tires?
say something real quick. So one of the things you said that some of the manufacturers working with them, Subaru did have a problem. Worked with the shop in Wisconsin.
Yep.
And they actually changed their packaging to ensure that when the columns came in, that there was no way that they could get damaged in shipping.
Yep.
And that was based on a certified Subaru shop
Yep.
in Wisconsin that actually worked with Subaru.
Yep, and because we've seen some of those too. We've seen some damaged columns come in.
Yep.
Replace it, another damaged column. So
Yep.
again, it's an issue.
But until we pointed out to them, they're not changing it because they didn't know.
So speaking of pre-production, pre-engineering, this next slide that we've got here is it says proposals OEMs at CIC. Well, we actually made a last-minute change to the CIC presentation this morning. So now it's a proposal to the OEMs through the Collision Hub World's Fair and Exposition instead.
Right.
But through Collision Hub, we would love to have the OEMs to consider letting us help. We want to help. We want to fix the situation. Create an avenue for repair facilities to measure, document, and share the data with us or somebody else. I mean, if it's your network, if your part, what doesn't really matter as long as it gets done. To create some sort of a data center for us to share and store this data so that we can look at a bigger picture and gather that data and identify where these issues are coming. Certainly, we'd encourage you to leverage that offer that Kristen made. We'll come out, we'll visit the parts distribution centers. We can have our collision repair facilities, our clients work with you. Let us go, let's measure some of these columns.
Yeah.
Let's compare them to the measurements that we've got in the published OEM procedures, and again, compile all that. And most importantly, commit to correcting and updating if there are inaccuracies there. I recognize fully that it is a lot of work to go in and update OEM information, but you do it all the time.
And there's legal involved.
Understood.
And yeah.
But we hear all the time,
There's
like,
stuff to
well,
do
you
it.
shouldn't use a third party for your OEM information because it changes so often, which means they're changing it. So take that and make these changes. We'd love to have you commit to doing that. And again, let us help out with that. Okay. So again, from a best practice standpoint, we would like to make sure that we have pre-production specifications match the production columns.
Right.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
No.
It really isn't. And again, leverage that Collision Hub offer to work with you and share the
I'll
information.
add to it, Mike Anderson's offer still stands as well. Mike and I have, Celette has offered to go with us to be the measuring company so that they can say, hey, it wasn't either Kristen or Mike holding the tape
It's not
measure.
just Kristen.
Right? I wouldn't trust me either. You should see me play poker. But Mike's volunteered as well. But I think nobody wants to. I don't want to add cost to an estimate that doesn't need to be there, because ultimately it's not cost to it's cost to the consumer.
Right.
So I don't want to add it there. I don't want to remove parts I don't have to remove, because every part I touch is now my responsibility / liability. And we want to give the confidence where I don't have to have. I feel like, last time you did this presentation, Jason, we had people posting in the comment section saying, we shouldn't be talking about this because we shouldn't talk about that there's things wrong with the OE procedure. That'll give the insurers leverage and ammo. And I want to talk about it because they deserve that leverage and ammo, right? If we want them to follow and pay for proper procedures, then they deserve to know that the procedures are proper.
Yes.
You have to follow. You got to follow the facts, and you live by the sword, die by the sword.
Correct.
That's how it's got to be. Good, better, and different. Follow what it goes, and if there's a problem with what you're supposed to follow, bring it up.
We're actually on the
Talk about
car's side.
Yeah.
Not the shock, not the insured, but the
it
car
just, like I said, it
and the consumer.
when I have this, it gives some legitimacy to going, well, what else is wrong?
Yep.
And I get that, and I don't blame them for having those conversations or thoughts or feelings, and I have them too sometimes. And there's a lot of times I look at procedures and go, I don't want to do that. But
Kristen, it's not about your feelings.
I know.
No one cares about your feelings.
I try to make it about my feelings.
I know. It's not about them,
Doesn't
though.
work.
Now the next kind of call to action here from a best practice standpoint, this is a little bit more of a much bigger task. When we try to get standardization across OEs, I really recognize what a difficult process that, but maybe through the OEM roundtable or other processes that are out there, if we could have some more standardized protocols around what the measurement process or the inspection process should look like, when we should do it, where it's found in service information. Again, I fully recognize that that's asking a lot.
Dig a little bit.
But the more standardization that we have, the better off we're going to be.
Right.
And again, we're going to recognize that not all vehicle makers would adopt something like that, but if we can get some of the major car companies to really develop some more standardized protocols, I think that's going to be ultimately beneficial.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple of columns here that we just want to kind of talk about a little bit quickly. So we've got a Subaru Impreza over here that we've got here, Mark.
Yep.
And what were your specs on that? Now,
So it's a 210. It's a 2010 Impreza.
Okay.
Non-tilt. So it doesn't have like a CV joint in there. I mean, it doesn't do that. It just it moves up and down, but it's not
telescope.
It doesn't articulate. And so the spec is 833.6 millimeters, and that's plus or minus 1.3 millimeters. So a great tool to use with this would be a tram gauge. So I just put it between here and here. But a lot of times tram gauges are not actually, they're a little longer than that. So if I take this just a tape
Jason's
measure.
looking for my tram gauge.
If I take just a tape measure and I put it right here, it's 800, and I know somebody's going to say, well, yeah, it kind of went over the top of this, and that changes it. I got it.
Makes it longer.
But it makes it longer. So it actually is 828, which is not 833.6.
That's too long. Still too long.
So if I take this, it's a little bit long to do this with.
Well, no, if you measure at that point where you're starting from, then
Yeah.
I just slide this
You
over
slide
and
it that
measure
way?
this point, then we'll get the right number.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Kind of like a push me, pull me kind
We
of
could
thing.
use the thumb.
Yeah.
No, actually, if we use the tower,
Yeah.
the drawback tower, we can pull it longer and we can make it to this measurement. Right? Why not? No,
Larry,
it won't work that way?
that's how they do it in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the point is that this is not a sophisticated tool. This is a tape measure that has millimeters on it, which is not easy to find sometimes. And all we did is we just put it across here to here, and it's 828. So what's happened is this is actually collapsed in per the specification that it's supposed to be. Now, again, we could argue that it's going around this, but that would actually make it longer and make it shorter, actually, in the thing. So even going the long way, it's too short. We know that if we did the other way, it's going to be even shorter. So this one, per the specification, needs a column.
Right.
So thanks to Bob at Total Auto Body
Yep.
for
Thanks, Bob.
giving us that column very much. Okay, so the next one, and we have a couple of GM columns. We have 3 GM columns here. So again, I'll shout out to Chris for sending us these 2 columns, very much appreciated. And here we have on our presentation here, this is from Chris. He measured this particular one of these 2 columns. Let's see, was it this one? This column right here. The specification is 286 millimeters. We've heard that number before, right?
I heard that number. 286. Bam.
Now,
Pretty similar to what's written there.
do you want to take a guess at how long what this measures at?
You've been doing this 30 years. Should be a guess.
Remember, you got to form it in the form of a question for Alex Trebek.
Yeah.
What is 274?
274. Let's see what we got here. Look about 274, Larry?
Roundabout.
Around about
Look
274.
at that.
What did he
Look at
say
that.
earlier
Good
about me
job.
not being right?
I know.
All right,
I know.
well, here's
Yeah,
another.
but if you go ahead and you just do this, you take this measurement again, you do it from here, and then measure to this hole, well, now it's the right length.
That's the right length. Yeah. just gotta move the hole.
Adjust it a little bit, that's it.
Yeah.
All right,
Give
we
it
got
take
Slot-
3 inches.
There's some slots and some shims coming
Yes.
for the steering column. Got it.
So Chris replaced this column,
Yeah?
and Chris replaced this column. You want
Okay.
to venture a guess at how long this one is?
Get your thumb out.
It's a daily double.
So it's a 5-hour dent, 5 and 2.5 hours, 274.
Well, would you look at that? I'd say it's about 274.
Whoa. Look at you.
Boom,
At
bam.
least they're
fire.
consistently bad.
Take you to the casino.
Lottery ticket.
Or maybe that's the number.
Maybe that's the number.
Okay.
And we
now,
have no damage columns.
now this one,
Is a repair this week down the road. So this is CJ.
this is we just got this in.
One of our local
not that
shops just
long
dropped
ago.
it. He hasn't even taken the
Hasn't
wheel
taken-
off. Yeah.
The keys are still in the ignition.
Keys are in it. Yeah.
So basically, they can't move it around the shop
Yeah,
right
they can't
now.
find. They can't move the car, but
He's still looking. He would
Doors
be
are
here
locked.
right now, but he's around the shop looking for the keys.
Hey, go over there and call him and ask him where the keys are for the car. Just see if
we need the
answers.
keys for the column.
Yeah.
So no airbag deployment. Okay, this vehicle is hitting the side, some damage to the wheels and the doors.
Right.
So no front airbag deployment, no seatbelt retention or deployment, just a small impact to the side. We measured this one 286 again as our spec on this one. Now this one, interestingly enough, is at like 279.
Oh.
So not 274, 279 ish,
From a
But-
laterally applied impact
but
force.
still less than 286.
Yeah.
Boom, I'm buying a column.
Yeah, and what is this out of?
You want to buy a column?
Yeah.
This is out of
Buy a column.
a Silver Auto.
I'm
59.
going to
Yeah,
vote
yeah.
that we replace.
Let's buy a column.
Let's buy a column.
Let's buy a column.
Boom.
Let's
All
go to
right.
the videotape.
Yep. Okay.
Look at
Let's
that.
pull
we
one
got
out
a
of a
column.
box.
I'll tell you what, we have one efficient parts department here. All right. So this is the actual column.
This is
that,
just in time lean.
Oh, the holy grail.
brand new column. Now, this
I bring you these 10.
we just pulled this thing out of the box, right?
Okay, Kristen, what's your guess now?
Okay. All right, so we've had 2 at 274.
Well, I mean, it's possible you might have cheated because you might have known, but this just came out of the box.
We
You
had-
haven't actually measured this yet.
Then we had 1 at 279.
Yeah, yeah.
5 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like
Cut. Let's start again. Hi, welcome to Collision Hub.
274.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dance with the one that brought me,
Okay.
Mark. Dance
I got
with the one that
it.
brought me.
I got it.
What do you think that looks like to you?
I can't read it.
274,
Yeah.
275.
Yeah.
Yeah.
274.
Let's
Out
tell
of
her
the
what
box.
she's won.
So those two columns and the
Same
box
as this.
one out of the box are identical, and
Yep.
and the other one was off by 5
Yep.
from the other measurements.
Yep.
But none of them match the spec.
Right.
Match spec.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
short of
I
spec.
want to make sure everybody knows this is not the Subaru one that we did over here.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, look, we still got there's packaging stuff left on. That's we
Well,
just
that
pulled
threw the
it- we
measure-
literally just pulled
Right.
this
That
out of the
threw the
box.
measurement
Yep.
Yeah.
off. You have to
That
remeasure
threw it off the
'cause that's-
measurement, yeah.
It's
Oh,
weighing
boy.
down on it stretch. Yeah. Again,
And
it'd be
it
stretching it out a
outweighed
little
it.
bit.
But
more.
now here's a car. It's down the road. It's in process. This is a customer, and the shop now has a decision to make. So
Right.
he's holding basically the original column, and the replacement column are pretty much like the same measurement. And so now he's got to decide what to do and use your common sense. So that's.
And he's, I mean, he's literally in that situation
Yeah,
right
right
now.
now.
He's
Yeah.
at the shop going like, what am I going to do with this
Listen,
thing?
if you anchored this to one of the jigs, and then just put a bolt through here and grabbed it with the chain, and just gave a slight tug, it would give you those extra 7-8 millimeters.
I don't want to put a bolt through there. Can I just weld the tab on?
You can weld the tab, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That'd probably go good.
right.
Yeah, you weld the tab on there and stuff.
If anybody wants to go with me and re-inspect some of the repairs Larry's done, it should be entertaining.
All right, so we did have a question come in from Roxana. What equipment does a tech need to measure the steering column? Tape measure, a
Tram
tram
bar.
that's small enough,
I think the best thing is probably a tram gauge.
nausea,
Yeah.
tram
Well,
gauge, the
So
smaller
anything
tram
they
gauge.
can do, so a point-to-point measurement system. So the nausea is a point-to-point measuring system. The Carliner Vision
Carolina, you can do an
can do
ultimate vision.
point-to-points.
I mean, excuse me, ultimate measurement. You
Yeah,
can do.
so anything that you can do a point-to-point on.
They make much smaller tram gauges too. So
Right.
if you got a mini
I
tram,
know, I
that
know for a
works pretty
fact,
good.
and I'm not trying to put one company above another, but I know Denfix has a smaller one that I have that literally, I think it actually is, I think the shortest is like here.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
only half the size it is. And it goes out fairly long, so
Right.
it's really good for like
And
under hood
that's,
measurements, and they have smaller.
Like so we're
Yeah.
looking at this.
Yeah, like that one, yeah.
That's the next screen here, but yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at. It looks like the Subaru one because we're measuring from the end to end there. Actually, I believe
Yeah.
that might be.
Yep.
Well, yeah. See that shirt right there says Total Auto Body.
Total Auto Body.
So
Oh,
that's
there it is,
That's
yeah.
the steering column right there from
Yep.
Total. So Bob's.
Yep.
But
Bob's
this
right
is my
there.
good old, just X out measurements for
Right.
under the hood.
Yeah, as long
And
as
again-
you have the
Yeah.
ability to get around stuff or it's a short enough measurement, a tape measure is good for short measurements. Longer measurements, you're going
Right.
to want a tram gauge
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
And-
And it also comes in handy, that short tram gauge, underneath hoods, measuring where the strut tower is.
Now, for documentation purposes, if I had pulled this column and I'm measuring it and it does measure in spec, I'm going to get a picture of that.
Right.
Yes.
Especially if it's something I'm reinstalling.
But again, we're using tape measure here, and we got a little bit of an angle, just like before, but it'd be longer because we're bending tape measure, and it's clearly not anywhere near
not gonna get there.
286. We're not.
Yeah.
No matter what angle we look at, and we're not going to get to 286. This
Yeah.
is 274, 275 all
Yep.
day long.
Yep.
We're nowhere near that 286 that it needs to be. So
Yep.
that's an issue. And again, we need to know what should we do. Is 274 the right number? I mean, we keep running that number a lot.
If you keep running it on
It's-
3
Yeah.
columns straight,
Yeah.
you have to start to question the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period.
But I think that that's useful because, I mean, if I'm going to go back and sit down with the OE and go, hey, here's how many we've done, here's this number keeps coming up, and then it allows them to go back to engineering and have a conversation and go, hey, I think maybe this is where we need to be. Can we have somewhere to start, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's not. We
engineering's
found-
not just going
you
to
didn't
go,
find 3 or 4 of
collision
them.
hubs measured 50 columns, great, we're going to
Good.
change that procedure. They're going to go, well, we need to go dive in and do our own research, our own study. We need to figure some things out, but it's
Yep.
good to know where you should be looking when you start your study.
It's the manufacturer. Maybe GM's not making these columns. They got a separate,
Sure.
tier 1, tier 2, tier 3
Totally.
company making it for them. Did they read procedures
That's
the wrong
probably the
way?
case, as we know.
That could be a possibility too. Obviously, it's working okay. You know what I mean? So just change the procedure for it, or something got changed along the line that something got mixed up someplace.
And the bottom line is, all we want is whatever column we put in there to be correct, so that the next collision, when the customer hits their chest on the steering column, it collapses and they don't die.
Right.
Pretty good thing.
I mean,
yeah.
we should almost do a research with shops and find out. Okay, the 274 that we have here, 274, 275. How many people have gotten less than 274, 275?
Well,
maybe find that out and say,
So-
I had a 208, I had a 220.
So we had a shop the other day, or not the other day, God, it was probably around the end of the year, before COVID, who said, I've replaced 5 columns this week.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times we make the assumption that what we pull out of the box is perfect, and I think shops that may even be measuring here when you pull it are not measuring here before they replace it. So if we could increase this, we may find other makes, models, other things that aren't even on our radar right now that we could use some help with.
Yep. Yeah, so let's put that back in the box first of all, so we don't mix up our columns. Right?
Right.
We should probably
No, we can
probably
put
do
that-
Right?
no,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's steering column.
Oh, it's already done. I already put the
Here,
other
let
column
me
in
put
there.
it back the way we got it.
That's going to go, put that in the motorhomes, man. Going on eBay later with a slightly used steering column.
With
So-
bag deployed.
With
Apparently
bag-
it sells.
With bag undeployed.
Yeah, 125 on yeah.
What the little ad lib here, I think because of the help that Chris gave us and Bob, we should, and your friend here, we should probably get them some swag too.
Let's
I
do
think.
it.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
do it.
Even if they don't do the hashtag.
I don't even get swag.
You got plenty of swag.
I got no swag.
You get cigars and bourbon.
All
No,
right.
cigars and bourbon get delivered here, and then you smoke them and drink them.
Yeah.
And there's none there now, so
But
I got to
because-
drive 48 miles
But
to go
because
get.
it said to Larry, it's still yours.
Right.
You got it. You just
She just smoked
And
it
then
for
she
you.
posts pictures on Facebook of us smoking my cigars and drinking my liquor.
It happens.
And she doesn't even like bourbon; she likes whiskey.
but I like it when it's his.
All right, so in closing, while we're in here fixing these steering column issues, we'll take a step further from a best practice development standpoint. Won't do that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. If we're gonna get in here and make some best practices for steering column inspections, let's do that for all these required inspections
Right.
while we're in there.
Yep.
So let's come up with a process. Universal would be great. Recognize it's probably not going to happen, but if the OEs could at least come up with a good SOP for us when we need to do it, how we should do it, what we're looking for, it's going to help with the communication. It's going to help with that efficiency, accuracy, most importantly, safe repairs. We're putting our customers back, our mutual customer.
Yep.
It's the repair facility's customer, it's the insurance company's customer, it's the OEM's customer, our mutual customer that we're putting back in the vehicle properly. And again, leverage Collision Hub. We can help distribute this. We can do Repair University episodes. We'd love to have you come on and talk to the Technician 20 group, the Estimating 20 group, the Leadership 20 group, the Owners Managers 20, whatever you want, leverage us. If you don't want to leverage us, that's fine too, but just at least get the information out there.
Right.
Let's get the word out there through your networks, through other distribution channels, whatever you have at your disposal. Please help us. Please help our mutual customer, and let's put people back in their cars properly.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, that's it. That's another show.
Awesome. Well
another
done.
wrap. We're going to be back. We got one more show left today. We have the world premiere.
I'm excited about this.
World's Fair and Expo.
World
Yeah.
premiere. So we're going to be back at 4 o'clock with Tradibot Industries and General Motors, and we will be debuting a new video on the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra front end module replacement procedure. So no more required. Now we're going to start repairing the vehicle. We've gone through a lot of
We
inspections,
spent all these days of inspecting things.
and now we're going to start repairing the
Cycle
vehicle.
time's not an issue, Mark.
No, I got it.
Okay.
And we're going to start with a Sierra and Silverado front end module. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been, we'll kind of walk you through that whole process in just an hour. Really looking forward to that. And then again, one more chance, or not one more chance, one more shout out for today anyways, so for now, visit the Collision Repair Education Foundation. Keep those donations coming. Get your technician shirt, your Collision Hub / CREF technician shirt.
Yeah, one extra thing I want to say, I do want to keep thanking IAA and
Yes.
Southern Farm Bureau for
Yep.
loaning us the vehicles. We gave them a specific list of OEs and some things we were looking for, and they came through
They
for
delivered.
us.
Yep.
Because I always say the insurers want to do the right thing,
Yep.
and they're trying, and we just got to make it easier for them.
Yep. So yeah,
I
that's
didn't
a
get
good
my
point.
Benz I asked for, but
It didn't
There's
show
no
up.
Benz in
No.
Arkansas. Sorry. Sorry.
All right.